Hi, this is Mrs. McTaggart. In this video, we're going to be looking at box plots. Box plots is a statistical diagram that isn't used in normal National 5 maths. It's only part of applications of maths, hence why I've got a different little screen here today with blue. Now, box plots should be only watched once you've learned how to do quartiles and interquartile range. It's a way of visually showing what the spread of our data looks like. This is a box plot, okay? So it's a load of lines and boxes drawn on a grid. Now what I've done is above each line, essentially what you've got is you've got 5 little vertical lines. So these ones here, right? These are all the bits of information that I've gained from a list of numbers. And I've labelled it above to let you know what each line represents. So the end ones are your lowest and highest numbers. So from this box plot, it's safe to say that my lowest number was 10. And my highest number was, counting the boxes, would be 33. Okay. Now the inside bit makes a rectangle. The outside bits of the rectangle are your Q1 and Q3. So Q1 is lined up with 15 and Q3 is lined up with 24. And then the median is Q2, which is, if I'm very careful, it's not 20, it's 21. Okay, so what actually happens is the box in the middle is representing the middle 50% of the data. Each of these lines is 25% the way along your list. So you can see that the numbers are pretty close together between Q2 and Q3, whereas they're a wee bit more spread out between Q3 and the highest number based on this longer line here. Now, I'm very bad at not using the right terminology here. These little lines that join out are called whiskers. So what we're going to be asked to do is you're going to be asked to draw a box plot, and then sometimes you're given a box plot and you have to compare it to previous results, and it's up to you to be able to get the interquartile range from it. So while I'm here, I'm going to work out the interquartile range, which remember was just Q3 minus Q1. So in this case is 24, take away 15, which is 9. So the interquartile range here would be 9. Okay, let's get into the real examples then. So there's normally quite a few parts to these, and I'm just going to work you through them the same way as you might be asked in an exam. So for question 1, this question is about Sammy downloading some songs. And the number of songs he's downloaded each month have been shown in this little table. Now the first thing that's annoying me is they're not in a nice ordered list. So I'm going to put them in an ordered list. Okay, so there they are in order, okay? And you'll also notice that as I put them in order, I've scored off the numbers in the table to make sure I didn't miss any. I've also double counted to check I've got 12 numbers here. So 12 numbers, n equals 12. So if you've got 12 people in a class, split them into 2 groups, you've got 6 and 6. There is no middle person. So I'm going to count in 6 from each side, which makes my middle number here. And then I'm going to find the middle of the lower half. Again, there is no middle number because 6 divided by 2 is 3 and 3. So 3 numbers in puts it between the 10 and the 12. And the same at the top, 3 numbers in from each side puts it here. So I always like people to write down what Q1, Q2 and Q3 are separately. So Q1 is between 10 and 12, which is 11. Q2, well, it's between 19 and 19, which is just 19. And Q3 is between 22 and 26. So 2 different ways of doing this. One way is to add them, which gives you 48. Half of 48 is 24. Or the other way is to say, well, that's a gap of 4. Half of 4 is 2. 2 along from each number is 24. Some people just get it by looking. You could also come up 1, down 1 and say, right, well, that's the same as what's between 23 and 25 by coming up 1 number, down 1 number, which leaves you with 24. It's also asked me for the interquartile range. The interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1. So 24 take away 11, which is 13. So that's part A done. Part B asks you to draw this information in a box plot. So I've already got a box plot kind of drawn here on a blank grid. Now what happens in an exam is you are kind of normally given the grid already drawn out. So here is my box plot. Now my numbers go from 5 up to 34. So when I start my box plot, I'm probably going to start at 0. So I'm going to put 0 here on my start line. And then every kind of darker line I'm going to make 5. So I've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And I'm going to go up as high as 35 because my highest number was only 34. What happens then is that each of the the quartiles, I'll put a line. I'll also put a line at my highest and lowest. Now, normally I should be using a ruler. I'm cheating here because I don't have a ruler. So I'm going to come and do a line there, which is my lowest. I'm going to put a line at 35, which is my highest. I'm going to put a line at Q1, which is 11. Now I'm making sure all my lines are the exact same height. I'm not going right down to the bottom of the axis. I'm going to put a line at 19. And I'm also going to put a line at 24. And then what we do is we join the middle three into a rectangle. Again, oh my goodness, you should be using a ruler. And then what you do is you join your rectangle up to the outside with these whiskers. And just to be nice, I really like it when you write the numbers up above it. That's 5, that's 11, that's 19, 24 and 34. It's not essential, but it's just nice to label it for your exam. And again, obviously use a ruler. So there's your box plot. A lot of people say it looks a wee bit like a syringe, so that's it. Now, again, there's also sometimes a wee comparison part to come. So we'll see this in part C. So I'm just going to remind myself that my interquartile range in part 1 was 13, okay? So that's there, and that was for his song downloads. And this one is telling me that his film downloads have an interquartile range of 7. So it says, make one comparison about his film and song downloads. So I'm going to talk about the films because that's what's been presented to me lately. So the number of films he's downloaded, the interquartile range has dropped to 7. So because it's got a lower interquartile range, that means your numbers are closer together, so they're less varied. So my sentence is, the number of films he downloaded. So the number of films downloaded, so I'm clearly talking about what the question mentions, are less varied. So the number of films downloaded are less varied. And the reason that is because that had a lower interquartile range. You don't need to write that bit, that's just why I've put it in brackets. So you don't actually have to mention the number, so just looking for that. Again, spin it the other way, the number of songs he downloaded was more varied because it had a higher interquartile range. So I think it's really important to understand what interquartile range is when you're comparing them. The lower one, the less varied. Lower, less varied, higher, more varied. Okay? Okay, so example 3, very similar to the last one, but just give you a wee bit more practice. We are told the French grades for a group of students are listed below. We have to find the quartiles and interquartile range again. So I have got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 numbers this time. So if you've got 11 numbers, when you divide that in 2, you've got 5, 5 and 1 left over. So count in 5 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my leftover one. If you've got 5 numbers in the lower list, you can come in 2 from each side to find the middle. Same at the top, 2 from each side to find the middle again. Remember, these should look symmetrical. So my Q1 is 58. My Q2 is 68. And my Q3 was 76. I didn't mention those numbers were already in order to save me a wee bit of time there. Okay. Right, my interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1, which is 76 minus 58, which is 12 and 6, that's 18. So it's quite a high interquartile range there. Right, next it asks us to put this into a box plot. So for this box plot, I've cheated. I've already got the grid drawn out. Remember I said in the exam, quite often the grid is drawn out, so I thought I would do the same for you. So my lowest number in the list was 53, so I put a line at 53. Now on both my box plots, it's always gone up in 1s. Just a wee point that a lot of times the numbers go up in 2s. So each box is worth 2 instead of 1, but my examples both go up in 1s. So I'm going to put a line at 53. Now this box plot isn't as deep as my last one, so each line is going to be 4 boxes deep. Again, I don't come right down to the bottom of the scale, it just gets a wee bit busy. I'm going to put one at my highest, which was 89. Then I'm going to put one at my Q1, which is 58. One at my Q2, which is 68. One at Q3, which is 76. And the same as last time, the middle 3 join into a rectangle, and obviously you would use a ruler. So middle 3 make a rectangle. And then you do the whiskers out to the end to make it look like that kind of syringe shape. And just to be nice to your marker, I always label my numbers up above. Okay, and that's my box plot drawn. Okay, so 5 lines, 5 bits of information, your 3 quartiles, and then your endpoints. Now, as usual, there's another bit to this question. That one was talking about the French tests, and we worked out that the IQR for French was 18. Okay, so now we've been given a box plot for maths, and we have to make 2 comparisons this time. Now, my median for French was also, so I'm just going to write my Q2, my median was 68. Now on this one, that was my French. For maths, my interquartile range, we're going to get this from the box plot. My interquartile range will be 84, take away 78, which is 6. So my interquartile range is now 6 for maths. And my median for maths is this line here, which is 81. So I need to make 2 comparisons. Now, first comparison, I'm going to start with the medians. Remember, another word for median is average. Now, if we look at maths, which was given to the second, maths, the median or average has gone from 68 to 81. So I'm going to say on average, it's obviously gone up or it's higher. So on average, pupils have scored higher in maths. So first sentence, on average, the pupils score. Now you can either use the word better or higher in maths, your choice. I'm going to say score higher in maths. And that is because maths had a higher median, okay? And I'm just writing this in to explain why. I've said that. You don't need to do this, okay? The other bit of the sentence is perfectly acceptable. So that's sentence 1. Sentence 2 has to look at the interquartile range, which is talking about the spread of the data. So the interquartile range for French was 18, but in maths it was only 6. So the maths interquartile range is a lot lower, so they are less varied. Listen to the alliteration, lower, less varied. So let's put that in a sentence. So the maths scores are less varied. Now your sentences, you should always make the reader know which stance you're taking. So we're talking about maths, and they should always mention what you're talking about. So in this case, it's test scores. So the maths scores are less varied, and the reason I wrote that was because it had a lower IQR. Okay, so I hope you've understood box plots okay from this lesson. It also talked about comparisons of interquartile ranges a lot there as well. So really, really helpful. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.